Greetings and welcome back to yet another episode of the Daily Run, and today we are playing as Lazarus, and the first pill I take is a range down pill, which I think is not a good decision to take the pill, but not because it was a bad pill, but because I didn't use it optimally. So even if that was a good pill, I would still argue that it was a bad choice of using the pill, because at the point that we used it, we didn't know which pill it was, so it was actually kind of all pills at once. So we kind of have to take account for all the pills that we could possibly get, and we try to maximize the value based on that. So let's say that that pill was actually an explosive diarrhea pill. So what we could do, or what we should do, is we would go to a room next to a tinted rock, maybe, or maybe next to a wall which we think has a secret room, and we would use the pill there. Because in the worst decision, or in the worst situation, we would still just get the same range up or range down effect that we got right now. But if that pill was actually explosive diarrhea, in a room with a tinted rock, we would get the benefit from it, because of course we would get like a free bomb. But if we used it in an empty room, the explosive diarrhea pill would be useless to us, because those bombs won't do anything. So even more, what we should have done is we would actually sacrifice our health on the blood bank until we get to half a heart, because at that point the bad trip pill actually becomes a full health pill, which just increases your health to the maximum. And not only do we avoid, by doing that, not only do we avoid the negatives of taking a bad trip pill, we get the benefits of it as well. So what we should have done is go to the blood bank, sacrifice our HP to half a heart, go to the tinted rock, and then use the pill, because then we have a few situations. So at the worst situation, exactly the same thing happens. We just get a range downgrade, and that's it. We did all of that for nothing. But there are situations where we get an explosive diarrhea pill, and in that situation, then suddenly it's a benefit for us to have done that, because if you use it in an empty room, of course, we wouldn't have anything to blow up. And if it was a bad trip pill, not only would we identify it as a bad trip pill, what it would also do, it would heal us to the maximum. So that means that we would be able to play the blood bank again. So not only do we get information that there's a bad pill or a bad trip pill in our rotation, how it looks like, we would also get 7 more cents and a full health effect for free if we had just done that. So I would argue that our usage of the pill there was just not very good. And I know a lot of people just don't like pills and don't use them, but I feel like you're missing a lot of strategic depth, like the ones I just explained now. And there are actually a few more situations like this, but I think this was maybe the most obvious. So the least you can do the next time you pop an unknown pill, you just go next to a rock, maybe that you want to blow up, don't waste a bump. And if it's an explosive diarrhea pill, that's great. You got your benefit out of it. And if it's not, it's going to be just the same as if you just used it whenever you got a pill or in any random room. So yeah, you're missing a lot of strategic depth on using pills, I think. And not just that, you're also missing a lot of benefits. Because I really feel like the negatives of the pills aren't that prominent as much as the benefits are. And I think the majority of that fact is, of course, that you identify the pills when you use them, so you can then avoid the bad ones and kind of pick only the good ones. But it's also the facts I mentioned here, that you can kind of play around even unknown pills to kind of try to maximize the value you'll get from them. And I think the pills that just give you stats up or stats down are the most boring. I don't think they should really exist. I feel like the pills should do something more extravagant, like maybe reduce the enemy's HP by half, or maybe increase your damage for a room or something like that. So then you would actually be incentivized to use pills maybe in active rooms, or maybe take a risk in using it in inactive rooms, which means that then you could get maybe something like paralysis, or maybe get something like a 2 damage up for just that temporary room. And I know that cards have a very similar effect to it, but I think cards should be then a bit less active, so a bit more passive, because you know the effects of the cards. And I feel like there's a lot here to be done to kind of make the gameplay with cards and pills more engaging. And of course, when Afterbirth Plus comes out, I'm really interested to see what some of the people will come up with, and maybe I'll try to make a few things myself. But obviously, I think it's very interesting to just think about these things, like just in the sense of game design. So I think people who don't use pills are really robbing themselves of a lot of benefits in the game. But obviously, you play the game how you want to. After all, it's meant to be fun. And it's not really fun when you take random pills and then you get negative effects. And that just bums out everyone, I think. So you notice I'm not really talking about the run much, and that's just because we're gonna say goodbye to it right now. So I actually played pretty badly, I felt, at this run. Not only did I make some, like I said, bad decisions at the start, like bad strategic decisions with the pills and some blood bank shenanigans, but I also just got hit a lot, so I didn't kind of dodge well enough. And I always had a problem with, I don't know when to use the D100, right? I can't gauge how strong my run is, and if it's worth kind of risking the fact that we're gonna reroll it a few times, because in those rerolls eventually you're gonna get a few bad runs, and that means that you're gonna get hit. So it's a bit up to luck, of course, but it's also a bit up to, is an average run that you reroll going to be stronger than the one you have now? And I think if the answer is yes, then you definitely take it. But obviously an average run is just not super strong. You're gonna get something like this, which is okay, right? Like, I'm shooting, doing some damage, but it's not like game-breakingly strong, and that's usually what you want to get, well, just in general when you're playing, but especially on dailies, especially when you have the D100. And sometimes you're gonna get runs like this that have like 0 range, and these fires seem to be super aggressive today for some reason, and it's just hard to kill and hit enemies, and you're just gonna get hit, and those are the risks you take when you actually use the D100. But I felt like, because I don't use the D100 much, it was a good opportunity to do it, because I felt like my run was actually kind of bad already. Well, not bad, but I wasn't playing that well. The run was actually pretty strong at that point. I mostly usually wouldn't reroll it, but I was like, okay, you know, let's just go for the Hail Mary here, maybe do something a bit wacky, maybe a bit different, and let's see how that goes, because I feel like experimenting is a bit part of getting better, and then maybe we can learn something new. It actually turned out much better than I expected it would. So of course we're just taking our opportunities, taking re-rolling consumables and items whenever we can, also our run as well, because the D100 has the D6, the D20, and the effect that to re-roll yourselves. So the D4, this D20, and the D6 in one. So you can do a lot of fancy things with it, I feel, but maybe just how much power it has over your run can actually be pretty scary. But you know that eventually at least one of those rerolled runs is gonna be super powerful to the point that you're just gonna melt everyone, and that's exactly what you're going for. And we actually got a few of those already, but I just rolled them because, like I said, I felt a bit adventurous, and I just wondered how things can go from here. Sadly, this floor was actually a bit too big, and I missed boss rush by, I can't say more than 5 seconds. So that was a bit unfortunate. Still, like I said, it was an experiment territory. This is just one of those habits I do, to go in the completely wrong direction and then find the boss rush in the last second. But thankfully it wasn't too big of a deal in the end, I feel, just because we did get the benefits of having the D100, so that means we rolled a lot, which also means we got quite a few consumables. So while it didn't completely offset the fact that we can go to boss rush the consumables, it did help to close that gap between the players that didn't take the D100. So at this point, you know, we're not really targeting those super powerful players that are gonna get 60,000 points, but we're we're hoping to beat those that didn't take the risk, that are playing a regular run, just, you know, maybe going through with the regular tiers, some damage ups, and I don't know if they're struggling or not. Obviously some are, some aren't, but we're just hoping that the run we have now, so that the tech hex conjoined, I think double shot as well, is gonna able to carry. Yeah, so at this point I decided to stop rerolling, because I feel like at some point you have to stop rerolling, otherwise you're gonna breakfast yourself. And this seemed like a good point to do it, because not only did we have tech hex, which is obviously an amazing item for single target DPS or multi-target DPS, so AoE, you also had a way to generate flies and spiders, which are also obviously super helpful, even though our damage might not be very super high. So at this point, of course, it's just about exploring. We just use the tech hack shots to kill everything in the room, because they're so large and there's so many of them. Things kind of split in different ways and everything just dies. We even get the sponge transformation, the cricket's head, and the chocolate milk, which all increase our damage, I think, with tech hacks to a ridiculous amount. And also, like I said, the fact that we have flies is also benefits that we got those damage ups. So you might notice, usually I don't show Hush in slow motion, but this fight actually went by so fast, it was actually shorter than most even boss rush fights that are super powerful. So I felt like maybe I should show it, maybe tell you a few strategies. Obviously when you have a super strong run, there's no strategy other than kill him as fast as possible. And he wasn't actually very mean at all. He didn't even do his continuum shots. He mostly did, he actually spawned a lot of enemies, which is obviously great for us, because not only do we generate more flights by that, we also have a way to deal with all of them at once. So with the fact that we have so many AoE shots. And you can see he has already half health remaining and nothing really passed. So the only time we're not dealing damage is when he's hiding in the ground, and that's a bit unfortunate. But you know, what can you do? Sometimes Harsh is gonna do that. I noticed when you have a lot of damage against Harsh, some of the attacks he does, he will cancel prematurely. So when he starts spawning enemies, then he starts burrowing himself under the ground. And if you kill those enemies fast enough, he actually just comes back up right again, and you have a few seconds to hit him before he does his next attack. Obviously, this is not applicable if you have a weak run, because you're never gonna be able to deal with so many enemies at once. So it's kind of more the fact that the rich get richer, so the strong get stronger. And I feel like that's maybe a bit reverse of how it should be, but you know, that's how the game is designed, and we kind of have to live with that. So at this point, there's really not much to say, at least in the terms of the run, because besides those strategic decisions at the start that I mentioned, I should have done better regarding the blood banks and the pills. This run is just, at this point, not strategic at all. Just go in a room, kill everyone, and just exit. Try to visit as many rooms as possible, pick up as many coins and consumables as possible. And at this point, I replaced the D100 because I'm afraid of using it accidentally. That can happen sometimes. You press the spacebar accidentally when you want to skip maybe a cutscene, and you end up using the item. That happened so many times to me. Well, not so many, but quite a few times, and it's always bumming. So I just felt like I should take a different spacebar item, and I actually took Telepathy for Dummies, which gives you a homing shot effect, and it's really nice to see it with the tech hack shots, because the tech hack shots kind of curve around and make really weird and fun shapes. So I would recommend it if you could do it. Just kind of stick with it. Actually, I feel like homing shots are very useful on a certain number of items. Even something like Mom's knife, which might not seem very good, it just allows the knife to stick on the enemy for just like a half a second longer, and that actually brings out a lot of DPS inside. That was the effect we had on one of the D100 runs or rerolls, and it's quite useful. So just in general, of course, I think everyone can agree with me that that the homing shots are a nice thing. I really like the effect, of course. So you can see that Mega Satan doesn't even have a chance to shoot one shot here, just with our overwhelming amount of spiders and flies and enemies he's spawning. He just can't do much. I even picked up Isaac's heart just for the hell of it. There's no reason why not to. I just felt like we should add insult to injury to really get Satan going. Kind of pick the worst item in the game and then beat him with it. And you can see my score actually wasn't that bad at all. I really thought it was gonna be worse. So rank 38th, obviously not the best rank in the world, but 47,000 points is not terrible, I would say, even though we missed Rush and Boss Rush. So if you got that would be another 4,000 points, so that would be around 51,000 points, or maybe even 52,000. And that would be even better, and we had all the chances to catch Boss Rush. So if I didn't just reroll a million times the good runs, I would be actually able to do all of it, and I would rank much better. So the D100 as a strategy is actually, I've noticed, or at least I found today, is not a bad choice to go at all, because it also gives you a lot of Shrek points, and obviously a very strong run as well, which just helps you in all the right ways, so you can explore more rooms, kill enemies faster, and that is just a great bonus at the end. So yeah, the next time I see a D100, I'll definitely consider it more. I knew it had a good effect, but obviously not to the extent it had now. So the fact that we are able to get in the top 50 with not even visiting Boss Rush, I think it's a great testament to just how good the item is. With that said, guys, I thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.